WatchTower Corporation, they won't have the presence of mind to understand just how woeful and degrading their existence is. In the meantime, their bodies and minds gradually become walking husks of human beings functioning on programmed behavior. This now brings me to my third and final pressure that Jehovah's Witnesses are exposed to, the financial pressure. I'm not here to comment on the ethics or morality of money itself. If you are a Christian, you may believe in accordance with 1 Timothy 6:10 that the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. If you're a secularist, you may believe something philosophically similar. However, to both Christian and secularist, I cite the words of King Solomon in Ecclesiastes 7:12. Money is for protection. In its simplest form, money is a tool of exchange between two or more individuals. It facilitates ease of trade, and vast quantities of this tool can expedite the endeavor of any individual who possesses it. So whatever your personal feeling on the nature of money may be, acknowledge for the purpose of this discussion that possessing a healthy quantity of money can make life easier. It is likely for the vast quantity of Jehovah's Witnesses brought up to be indoctrinated by WatchTower Corporation that they will never be able to experience an easier life due to monetary assets. Some may argue that one can live life large even on a small budget, and this is true for the frugal spender. Vast amounts of wealth are not innately necessary for a happy and fulfilled life. But I am here to argue that for the Jehovah's Witness, even this optimistic view for those with little money is nearly impossible. As the overwhelming majority of members lack higher education, the chance of attaining high-paying positions is unlikely. Since the pool of jobs available decreases significantly, the opportunity for advancement within that pool lessens exponentially. And so the victims of WatchTower Corporation theology most often become trapped in a perpetual state of financial stagnation. If you don't believe me, I suggest you examine an article, Is Your Religion Your Financial Destiny?, written by David Lenhart on May 11, 2011, published in the New York Times. Mr. Lenhart shared a very intriguing statistic. Jehovah's Witnesses are the second poorest religion in America. Being impoverished is bad enough, but shouldering the financial burden of the system which enslaves you adds insult to injury. Yeah, that's right, you heard me. It's the responsibility of individual members of WatchTower Corporation to shoulder the expense of the entire operation. From this vantage point, it again becomes easy to see the sinister aspect of WatchTower Corporation. The leaders of this entity are sitting upon a virtually self-sustaining empire. Large donations become unnecessary since all manufacturing is done on a volunteer basis. All advertising is done on a volunteer basis. Distribution is done on a volunteer basis. And even the equipment and supplies needed along the way are all bought and paid for by the sacrifices of others. To some, this may sound incredibly altruistic. This is why I saved this portion of the discussion for last. WatchTower Corporation is a multi-billion-dollar international corporation headed by a self-appointed board of directors who claim that an invisible, all-powerful, immortal man in the sky directs their entire operation. I pose to you a simple question. Which do you think is more likely? A multi-billion-dollar international corporation working for the benefit of an invisible man in the sky? Or a multi-billion-dollar corporation working for the benefit of themselves? Now, I'm not usually one to chastise a man for earning his wage, for building a business, or for making a profit. However, when this is done at the unwitting expense of the innocent through psychological manipulation and indoctrination combined with physical and emotional stressors intended to cage the individual like a lamb for the slaughter, well, damn it, I just can't stand for it then. And WatchTower Corporation certainly exemplifies this kind of nefarious behavior. Regular large-scale gatherings are orchestrated by the corporation throughout the year. These may be compared to fundraisers. Jehovah's Witnesses know them well as conventions and assemblies. Due to their large scale, they must be centrally located over a broad area. And who do you think pays for this operation? Travel expenses, lodging expenses, and food expenses are all paid for by the individual members. And indeed, the expense of the gathering itself is also paid for by the members of WatchTower Corporation. And what is the payoff for this great financial sacrifice? Nothing more than a sense of satisfaction for contributing to the work of God. For some, that is enough. And for most religious gatherings, I can find that outcome to be acceptable. However, unlike most religious gatherings, WatchTower-sponsored events are solely one-sided. If a gathering is not profitable for the corporation, increasing amounts of people will be consolidated to a single location until the event becomes profitable. This is done without regard or concern for those who may have to travel large distances in order to attend this event. I ask the viewer, if this truly was the work of God, why is he so concerned with profit? Additionally, throughout the year, the expenditures of the field ministry, Kingdom Hall maintenance, circuit overseer visits, and many other associated costs are all paid for in full by the low-income earning members. And if a congregation is not profitable, the location is demolished and further consolidated until it becomes profitable. It need not be stated that on a low-income budget, even the shared cost of these expenses is a massive chunk of the individual Jehovah's Witness budget. This can again cause a compound domino effect of disaster throughout the Jehovah's Witness life. For instance, two of the largest factors for divorce are contentions concerning money and religion. When your religion feeds on your money, this is a dangerous combination and can have adverse effects on your marriage. For Jehovah's Witnesses, this again is certainly the case. In a study conducted by Jerry Bergman PHD in 2002, he discovered that although Jehovah's Witnesses experienced a divorce rate that was only slightly above average, the rate of separation was almost double that of other religions. This suggests that the religion itself may be a catalyst when causing couples to separate. Or perhaps the couples were just too poor to buy a divorce in the first place. I joke. This study also confirmed the New York Times investigation, as it too reported the income levels of Jehovah's Witnesses as being the second worst in the nation. There are so many interweaving pressures faced by Jehovah's Witnesses that it's difficult to list them all. I could go on to dissect many more aspects of the corporate religious hybrid constructed by WatchTower Corporation. However, it is sufficient for you to understand the major pressures facing the adult members of WatchTower. Now, with a broader insight, you may better understand the abysmal situation that children are groomed and raised in. Children are raised in a wholly conditional environment. Disobedience of WatchTower Corporation mandates are paramount to personal attacks on the parent and, moreover, upon God himself. Any deviation from the dictated code of conduct is severely punished. The parents may choose to handle the matter privately. However, the custom of many parents is to take their children before the religious authorities in order for sanctions to be levied against them. Most often this equivocates to a slap on the hand. However, it fosters in the child's mind a fear and reverence for the powers that be, the powers appointed and directed by WatchTower Corporation. As I mentioned at the outset, love is essential to the healthy upbringing of youth. It is unfortunate, then, that I must tell you that any love of the children of Jehovah's Witnesses receive is highly superficial and hollow. Remember that the parents are in a constant state of mental, physical, and financial strain. These stressors are then in turn passed down to the children of Jehovah's Witnesses, who are innocent victims of this religious abuse. Recreational activities are kept at a minimum. Since the parents in most cases do not have the financial ability to take vacation time, they instead often attempt to portray activities surrounding the religious structure of WatchTower Corporation as recreation. This includes the reflexive and repetitive study of corporate published literature, engaging in corporate ministry campaigns, enrolling in corporate-sponsored training programs, and more. Outside influences in literature are discouraged and quite literally demonized as being a product of satanic influence. This is psychologically debilitating to the child's mind, literally undergoing formation. The lack of diversity encouraged by WatchTower Corporation can create a persona entirely dedicated to the corporation. These souls can become willing, walking slaves. The key to long-term indoctrination is repetition. Activities or teachings spread at regular, predictable intervals ensure that the mind of child or adult is never allowed to be without the direct influence of WatchTower Corporation for very long. From birth onwards, the children of Jehovah's Witnesses are trained to perform these repetitive tasks. Congregational meetings 2 times a week, corporate ministry work every Saturday at a minimum, regular designated family study sessions of corporate literature, and many more WatchTower-themed activities. Being raised in such an environment begins to alienate the child's mind from real-world thought patterns. It is my own supposition that through these formational years, the mind of Jehovah's Witnesses is physiologically altered through the patient influence of WatchTower Corporation. As evidence of this, I note that, too, once the child enters school, their thought patterns are so foreign and alien that they are unable to socialize normally with non-member children. Over time, the child will come to conceive these non-member children as the enemy, or as vermin with which one must contend as a condition for living in Satan's world. It is true that almost any form of social awkwardness can be overcome. However, the possibility of this is mitigated by WatchTower Corporation. Their young members are repeatedly discouraged from association with non-members. Those who do not share their views or their religion are labeled as worldly and taught that they are tools of the devil. This paranoia and extremist thinking will follow the child throughout their development and stunt social growth. In some cases, the ability to cope in social situations is lost almost entirely, and many adults and youth suffer severe social anxiety. If you've ever met a Jehovah's Witness in your work, in your school, or at your home, you may be doubtful of what I'm saying. It is true that in their ministry work and in their daily lives, Jehovah's Witnesses may come across as friendly and sociable. Now I want you to listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you is vitally important. Do not be fooled by appearances. Their interactions are, in fact, rehearsed behaviors taught by WatchTower Corporation. As a business, the corporation is fully aware of the effect their policies have on the social ability of their followers. This is methodically taken into account, and WatchTower Corporation provides their members with extensive training designed specifically to sell the corporate message. It works well for the most part. The Jehovah's Witness learns how to choke down the immeasurable pain and mask it from society with a smile. They learn how to warmly grasp the hand of their fellow man, offer a charming anecdote, use proper manners, and give the appearance of stability and sanity. But one does not need to dig very deeply to discover the polluting influence of WatchTower. This is why Jehovah's Witnesses cannot hold a conversation for very long without making at least some mention of the WatchTower corporate religious system. The next time you are speaking with a Jehovah's Witness, see how often they'll mention some aspect of their religion. It pervades all areas of their lifestyle, and if the witness makes any attempt to mask this, they cannot do so for very long, as WatchTower Corporation permeates every aspect of their lives. Once more, the reason for this is because their social interaction is conditioned by the corporation as a means to advertise their system. This lack of topical commonality will further isolate children as they move into adulthood and find it difficult to socialize with those who are not familiar with corporate terms and are not desirous to learn them. In time, this will prevent friendships from forming with non-members and create a dependence on the corporation to provide social interactions that all humans, by their very nature, crave. This need will be fulfilled by the regular interactions had at congregational gatherings, which in turn reinforce the indoctrination. And although superficial and tainted by rivalries and a constant state of mistrust, it is normal for the Jehovah's Witness youth, and this is the world that they learn to inhabit. And if done properly, this vicious cycle of superficiality, physical strain, social dysfunction, physical exhaustion, lack of educational diversity, financial constraint, and inability to demonstrate genuine love will in time create a cash cow ripe for harvesting by the corporation. For any business, the best way to profit is to create repeat customers. For the businessmen of WatchTower Corporation, there is no better way than to raise perpetual servants from the ground up. This is the world that I was raised in, and this is the world that I rejected. I sacrificed my mother and my grandmother, who now refuse to speak with me. I sacrificed friends that I was raised with, all of whom now refuse to acknowledge my existence. And I sacrificed the only system that I ever knew in pursuit of self-fulfillment and, more importantly, individual freedom. Although I am bitter about my lost youth, I cannot help but acknowledge that I am who I am in spite of how I was raised. And perhaps in some perverse way, these detrimental teachings help mold me into the fiercely individualistic person that I am today. I hope this dissertation aided you by giving greater insight into the terrible system of WatchTower Corporation. And as a victim of this scheme, I implore you, if you are studying with a Jehovah's Witness, discontinue it immediately. If not for the physical, mental, and financial health of yourself, then do it for your children who will be victimized by the insidious teachings of this soulless corporation. I survived it, but your child might not be as lucky as I. Have a good evening.